Welcome to I Change the Narrative, a podcast for and about Black men inspiring, supporting, and empowering Black men and Black boys. Today's topic is HBCUs and how it plays an important role in the lives of Black males. Before we start the conversation, I want our guests to briefly tell us about yourself and the work that you're involved in that lends itself to the topic or the lived experience. I want to start with Baker. Thank you. Welcome to the show. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Gerald Baker. I'm an alumnus of Florida A&M University, the Rattlers. Currently, I'm an instructional designer. I started off as a teacher here in Baltimore City. I helped co-found the school, Baltimore Talent Development High School, back in 2004. It was a turnaround model that we implemented here in Baltimore in partnership with Johns Hopkins University. But I ended up going full time with them, and I'm currently an instructional designer and committed to trying to expose more young people to IT.
Awesome. Thank you. Dr. Corey.
Thanks, Tamika. Corey Robinson. I am a graduate, two-time, HBCU graduate from Savannah State University, as well as Morgan State University. Currently working in higher ed. I've been in higher education now for, about 14 years. And working on the administrative side. And my ultimate goal is to become the president of an HBCU one day. And so I definitely enjoy the work, and I am excited about talking with the panel about HBCUs.
Awesome. Thank you. Kyle.
Hello, how are we doing today? My name is Kyle Lott. I'm a graduate of Norfolk State University. Currently, I work in private security, law enforcement. I work for Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office, Department of Corrections in North Carolina, and most recently public safety for Community College of Baltimore County. I'm having plans for entrepreneurial ventures, and thanks to my HBCU, I have the opportunities.
Yes, thank you. Dwayne.
Dwayne Akins, graduate of Xavier University of Louisiana, got an MBA from the University of Phoenix, and currently working on my educational doctorate at University of Phoenix. I run my own nonprofit, We Lead Ours, also serve on several commissions for the city of Oakland, currently on the Sugar Sweet and Beverage Sugar Tax Advisory Board, BART, Environmental Justice Title VI, and member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, current Western Region Secretary, and recently Oakland Inspirational Leadership Awardee in 2020, and also Golden State Warriors Playmaker Award from Walmart. So just community guy, running my own nonprofit. We've been in business now in 11 years. I'm excited to be here, learn about what these other brothers got going on, and I'm excited to be a part of this show.
Thank you so much. Welcome, gentlemen. I just want to read this quote that I saw, and then we're just going to hop right into the conversation. So Howard University professor Ivory Tolson, author of No BS, Bad Stats. Black people need people who believe in Black people enough not to believe every bad thing they hear about Black people. So he gave a stat, and he said, there are 1.4 million Black men in college right now. And that was as of 2020 in August. So I want to start off with, how has attending an HBCU impacted you? And anyone can take this question. Start off with the question.
I'll jump in there. So attending the HBCU was the absolute right thing for me, being an Oakland native, coming from a family where nobody had went to college. My mom was on drugs. My dad was in and out of jail. I was staying with my grandmother. And although I did very well in education in public school, I got to Xavier and realized that OUSD had not taught me the things that I needed to be successful. And I felt like now what I know about education, the highest education I had when I got to college was 8th grade, probably, when it came to English and math. And so being at a school like Xavier, where it's small, you got professors that are listening to you and working directly with you, and the whole school feel like it's propelling you and moving you forward. And then you see these different ideas of what Black families look like, what Black success look like. And you like, wait, I can be anything. So it was really a culture shock in that aspect, just to see a different flavor of Blackness. And all the young people I work with now here in Oakland, I always talk about, we got to debunk the negative hashtags, like you are bigger than that. And it's so important for folks with kids in their house to let them know that, hey, you are great. Regardless if you get into a fight, you say something wrong, you are still great and you're still able to be successful. I think we got a lot of academic bullies in our public schools, being some of the principals and some of the teachers, and especially when it comes to Black males, they tear them down instead of building them up. So, yeah.
And for me, I don't think it really sunk into me the importance of HBCUs until a different world, right? Because we probably are all from that era where we got to see HBCUs or fictional HBCU week in and week out on Thursday nights in the late 80s, early 90s. And so I think for me, that's what really piqued my curiosity. Like, wait, we can go to college with Black people, have fun, get an education, graduate, and then go on to be successful. And so that ended up playing a huge role in why I chose Savannah State. It was, okay, I'm not going way too far from home. My best friend's at Savannah State, and I can go and do all those things that I saw on a different world. And so for me, it was easy making that jump from high school going to Savannah State, because I was in an organization in high school where it's nothing but Black people. So it wasn't going to be that culture shock for me to be able to then transition to an HBCU. And a different world helped to destroy that narrative. I guess we probably didn't know it growing up, or the myth that Black people did not value higher education. And so I think that really played a huge role for me in debunking the myth that Black people don't go on to get college degrees.
Absolutely.
I think for me, I think my experience may be a little bit different. I went to private school most of my life, and education for me had been, for the most part, either all Caucasian or all female. Going to an HBCU was the first time that I had African-American male teachers, and the conversation was different as far as education. It was more, I felt like it was a group effort for my success, whereas before it was like, felt like you get the information or you don't, and this is your grade, work on your own, where this thing was like, all right, success is the primary focal point for everyone in this classroom. And you can have personal conversations about your learning plan. And that have to be necessarily special needs to get that kind of individual perspective that I think you need. Because I think the problem I saw with education, I think we can all almost agree on it, is like, we have choices with regards to food. There's 14 different types of food. There's 30 different types of cars, but education usually comes to us in one form. And we definitely can all agree that males learn differently than women. I learned this and put my son through it in search for school for my son. And girls tend to learn on the vertical plane and guys tend to learn on the slant. But that's usually not addressed until we get to college, where they test you and they figure out your learning style and what time do you want to go to class and things of that nature. So that for me was important, because I didn't necessarily believe I would have got that at a PWI.
Okay. Yeah, for me, my father actually went to Morgan. My mother went to Tennessee State, so I was exposed to it. I'm from Jacksonville, Florida, so I knew about Florida A&M. But the biggest thing when I hit the campus is being exposed to things that I would have never seen. I would have never seen all of these Black geniuses. There were inventors, there were everything. On our campus, we had what they call the set. So you could see on any given day, you could see people debating. You saw the Greeks, you saw the Preppies, you saw the Africans, the West Indians, you saw everybody. You saw, just everything, that you could witness there. I knew people. There was a brother that was a political science major, and he had invented a electric car, and he wasn't even an engineering student. And then the engineering school came and asked him to come and help them, and he just did this for fun. There's people that were doing so much stuff. I was in the science department, and we saw people who were at the top of the game. It was very competitive. It was extremely competitive environment. For a long time, people would say, "Oh, it's a party school," but FSU was across the street. We didn't even have the money to party like they party. And now today, I have partners that's all over the world. My HBCU education landed me. My first job was in South Africa. I Fulbrighted in Ghana. I got my master's at Johns Hopkins, and it was only there I had 60 classmates. And out of those 60 classmates, I think I was the only African-American male. And there were 14 other people from HBCUs. It was only at the time when I landed at Hopkins that I realized, because I went into Hopkins just ready, amped and ready to go and to represent. But I did have in the back of my mind, can I do this? I got to Hopkins and realized all the HBCU students, we were at the top of the class, and we would have never known this.
Exactly.
We would have never, ever known this. And like I said, I got my master's at Hopkins. I worked in the School of Ed at Hopkins for 7 years. And I can tell you, in the back of a lot of people's mind, they're thinking they're getting less at HBCUs, but I'm telling you, we dominated in the program. There were people who went to Brown and Harvard who are classmates at Hopkins, and they dropped out. They could not keep up. Matter of fact, all of my HBCU peers that were in that program, we looked at each other and were blown away. We were like, whoa, everybody else is stressed out. But we knew that if we were at HBCU in that same program, we would be pulling our hair out. And we just were not challenged. We were not challenged with the way we thought we were going to get challenged when we got to Hopkins. And exactly. that needs to be known. And that's a fact.
I would happen to agree with you. I did attend the master's program there as well at a point when I was teaching in I think it was the reading program. And I'm just like blown away that I was not challenged to the level that I thought I should be challenged. I was challenged more at Howard than I was at Hopkins. So anyway, Curtis, thank you for listening in. HBCUs are the key to the Black male educator pipeline. We did it once, we'll do it again. He is from the organization Real Men Teach. Thank you for listening in, Curtis. Also, Donovan, she just says that representation matters for students. So this is why she thinks that it's important for students to, Black males to attend HBCUs. One of the questions that I want to bring up is, what do you think, or why do you think it's important for Black males to attend an HBCU?
Well, I think there are a couple of things with an HBCU. An HBCU, a lot of times I hear people say it's easy to go to an HBCU. It's not that. It's just that it's a nurturing environment. And I think that's what Black people need overall, but especially Black males, because we didn't necessarily get that in high school if we went to a high school that was predominantly white or mixed. And so I think we get to be in a safe space where we can really be okay about, how we learn, what our learning deficiencies are, or what type of help we can get without feeling judged. I think is a key reason why Black males should attend HBCUs, because you're in that safe environment where you can make mistakes and you don't have to necessarily live up to the stereotypes that are on us outside of that HBCU bubble.
Mm-hmm.
I think what you said is good, but I think more importantly, I think it's the only opportunity we'll have for successful networking opportunities. A lot of times I found some of my friends that looked like me, that went to some PWIs, they couldn't get into the networking opportunities at these institutions like Ohio State unless they were a great athlete, or otherwise those opportunities as far as networking just didn't fall their way. And as far as fraternities, they would have to they would join the fraternities, the Alpha Omegas and things of that nature, because that was the only opportunity they had to network. Whereas at HBCU, while definitely our fraternities and sororities are held in high regard, if for whatever reason you're unable to join the fraternity or sorority, you can still take advantage of networking opportunities with individuals that look like you that you wouldn't have any other way. Because I have friends that are realtors that feel like, because they went to HBCUs, they were able to get their realtor business off the ground. It's because of the friends they made in college, where that may not be the case if they went to a PWI.
Thank you. Dwayne, I was just asking the question to the gentleman, why do you think it's important for Black males to attend an HBCU?
I think it's important for Black males to attend HBCUs, depending on the circumstance in which they come from already. For me, I needed to get out of Oakland. And I think a lot of folks from my community that are Black males, they need to leave. They need to get out, and they need to try something different. And then just the expansion of that network to feel like you can do anything. I remember when I first entered the MBA program, I just wanted to learn how to not destroy a business. And I get in there, and I'm in there with all these folks at University of Phoenix. I'm taking an in-person course. And these folks went to like Brown and all these other places. They work for these big corporations. And here we are, we get midway through the program and they're dropping like flies. And they're like, some of them was even paying me to do their homework. So I'm like, okay, I was built for this moment and I was prepared for this. And talking about PowerPoint presentations, we were doing those first class. We had people that was in this MBA program that could not build a PowerPoint or make it appealing. And I was like, okay, the value, starting my own nonprofit, the donation base, it looks like Xavier University. They show up, they support my organization. We just started a career exploration podcast, and it's been flooded with Xavier Rights, showing just Black excellence in all of these different fields to the kids out here, just so that they can see people that look like them doing some awesome and some amazing things. And it's really cool when you turn on TV and you see one of your friends who's a doctor or a pharmacist, and they're talking to the president of the United States about COVID-19. You're like, wait, we started our freshman year together. I see you, Melody. And so those are beautiful moments. And just to know how connected we all are across the HBCU spaces and how we can all get in contact with each other and make some things happen.
Yeah, I have two sons. I think it's extremely important for Black men to go to HBCUs. I'm not saying that's, that everybody, but for me, my two sons, they go to a private school right now. They have an older cousin who went to an elite private school similar to the one that they go to. And he went to Howard. And he blossomed at Howard. He was a swimmer. He was a high-level swimmer. And I think Howard is the only school that has a swimming team now. So he went there, and one of the comments he made, because he was being recruited by American, he was being recruited by a lot of different PWIs. And he just happened to stop at Howard when he came to visit the PWIs in DC. And we were hoping and praying that he would go to a HBCU. His parents went to HBCUs. Right. And he said, look, I wanted to be more than just a Black kid who swims. I didn't have to prove anything when I got to Howard. I didn't have to prove anything. I didn't have to prove that I was intelligent to be in the room. All of that. I didn't have to prove anything to them. Now, I have two sons, and the oldest one it looks like he's going into IT. And he can pretty much go wherever he wants. And a lot of people are looking at me like, you spend all that money to send him to this school, you're going to send him to and those are people who don't know me very well. Because at this point, he's not going to get anything different if he go to the PWI that he's gotten at the school that he's been at all this time. There's nothing going to change for him. Exactly. Matter of fact, things have been made too easy. You need to struggle a little bit because that gives you the resiliency
Yes.
and the survival skills to deal with anything.
Yes.
So the things I had to deal with at HBCU at the time, I was a little, I used to be a little frustrated sometimes, but I realized that the skills that I had, first interview I had, I came the day before. I even talked to the janitor, and I know it sounds extreme, but I don't go any interview I've gotten, I get the job, and I think it's because we had the endurance standing in those lines and all that. A lot of that stuff is going away now because things are computerized, but it gave us skills that I've been to 30 countries, and for a reason, because I have very thick skin going to HBCU.
Mm-hmm.
My son needs to go, and now they have partnerships, with some of the bigger IT companies, with Google and so forth. That things are changing a bit, and they know that a lot of people are realizing that there's a lot of Black talent at these schools, and it is only in the interest of everyone, the whole world, to be paying attention to the talents that exists at the HBCUs.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. I see your question, Renee. I'm going to address that too. Thank you, Renee, for listening. Curtis has a question. He says, percentage of Morehouse students who are kids of alums falling. Why don't more HBCU alums push them on their kids?
Well, I think they do. And so I recently completed my PhD, and I focused on the role that society and culture plays in African-American students attending HBCUs. And in going through the research, one of the questions that I asked my participants was, who influenced you to attend, and I'm not going to name the university where I did the research, to attend this HBCU?
Mm-hmm.
And without fail, all of them said that they had either a cousin, an aunt, a parent, even a parent who didn't attend an HBCU, to push them to attend an HBCU. So I think that, I know at Savannah State, I get to see now people that I graduated with, their kids are now attending Savannah State. And so it's so refreshing. And I think that alums are pushing for their children to attend HBCUs, but they're still giving them the leeway to ultimately make the final decision. Maybe for us it was HBCU or bust, but now you have these PWIs who are now offering, all of these financial packages. And so sometimes it's hard to compete with that when you can get a full ride at a PWI, whereas you may have to take out loans in HBCUs. But from everything that I've seen where HBCU alums are still pushing for their children and their children's friends to attend HBCUs.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I don't have my own kids, but through the time I've been back in Oakland, and I have two of my mentees that's graduating from Xavier that I worked with either while they was in elementary or high school. I have one that's still there finishing up. And then yesterday I posted on my Instagram story, one of my kids that was in my male leadership program, Xavier's in his top 10, and he put it on his little social media stuff. So I was like, pick Xavier. So I know for sure, being a member of Alpha Alpha Fraternity Incorporated and being on the West Coast, one issue is with some of the college chapters that it's not enough Black men even at the colleges in the West, right? So they have hard times even getting kids into the frats and stuff like that. Whereas the sororities, different stories, they everywhere. The women are everywhere. So to get the young man to school, I'm always pushing pro HBCU, HBCU, HBCU. I don't care which one you go to, pick one. I hope you pick Xavier. But we definitely got to get our young men to go to those schools, especially the ones that are like those diamonds in the rough that can either go left or right. We really need to push them into the HBCUs and just to understand the process of how things work. I remember getting to Xavier, I still have this kind of like Oakland mentality where you think you can come to class late, you think you can say what you want to say to a professor. And I had sister Mary Grace, she pinched me She pinched me. And I was like, this lady just pinched me. And she looked at me like, you bet not talk in my class again. And then I came late to Dr. Blanchard Wilson class, and she follows me on social media. And the coolest thing that she did was she knew exactly who I was. She knew my address. She read me my Miranda rights in front of the class. And she was like, I will fly your grandmother up here to walk you to class. And she called me maybe 3 years ago. She went on my website and called and said, may I speak to Dwayne Akins? And I was like, who is this? Dr. Blanchard Wilson. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. So that's what HBCUs does. It's mentorship through and through, and you connect it once you get there and once you leave, if you take advantage of it.
Absolutely.
I agree with all those gentlemen. I think that all alums are definitely pushing it on their kids, but I think we have to work on how we market it. I think we got to use it like a used car sales pitch. I know it may seem kind of odd, but I think HBCUs have so much value, so much resource that we tend not to recognize, like I did after I left. Like I didn't know that Delaware State had their own planes. I didn't know that Norfolk State had its own aviation program. That's something after leaving I would have wanted to get into. You know, I didn't know how easy it was to become a pharmacist with only the prereqs, and you could apply to pharmacy school, in which HBCUs have it, like Xavier, things of that nature. So I think what we have to do is kind of engage I think we're doing a good job of like pushing our HBCUs and pushing the importance. And we tell them all the history, you know, from W.B. Du Bois at Virginia State and Reginald F. Lewis and things of that nature. But I think we don't like show them like how HBCUs have fab labs where if you want to make T-shirts, this is what you can do. While in school, we don't teach them. We don't show them like the resource. We give them the history. We give them our great experiences, but we just haven't shown how it impacts their life. I think that's what we have to do a better job of doing. Like I didn't know Howard was the only one that had a swim team. You know what I mean? And there's lots of kids who swim. You know, in the African American or tennis or things of that nature. And I think we got to just do a better job of showing the resources. Make it a used car pitch. You know, almost. You know.
And
That's my perspective.
Right. And to jump on that, you're so right, Kyle, because, you know, if a student may not know that they may want to major in, or a black male may want to major in marine biology, but doesn't know that Savannah State offers marine biology, or they may want to be a lawyer. Okay, you want to be a lawyer, you can go to North Carolina Central. You want to be a civil engineer, you can go to A&T. You want to be a doctor, you can go to Howard or Morehouse or Meharry. You know, you want to major in veterinary medicine, you go to Tuskegee. And so you're right, we don't do that because we tend to almost just look at our HBCUs and what our specific HBCUs offer.
Right.
Realizing the breadth that all of these other HBCUs have to be able to meet the needs of black males who may want to major in something that, you know, Howard may not have, or BAM may not have, or Xavier may not have, or Savannah State may not have, but one of our, you know, rivals may have that, and we can push them to go to that particular school and still keep them within the HBCU network.
Yeah. And I want to piggyback on two of those things Corey had brought up about, because the question was asked, why don't a lot more HBCU alums push and require their kids to go? And I agree with what Corey said, that, you know, today it is real. The money is real. The money side is real, you know, as far as, okay, you know, these PWIs offer a full ride, whereas the HBCUs are not always able to do that. So there is like a fine line in there trying to figure that out. You know, I've come to the conclusion I'm definitely going to have to do a lot of work on the private scholarship money because that's where I want to go. And so the same thing about what Kyle and Corey just mentioned about, you know, different HBCUs have different things they specialize. So I had to be open to the fact that Howard, as much as I hate to admit it, Howard started, because Kyle mentioned, he brought an excellent point. Howard has they started the partnership with Google. And literally you go to Google's campus for a whole year, for 9 months, for 2 semesters, and you take your classes on Google's campus out in California, and you get taught by the Googlers, and you get taught by all of the 10 HBCUs that are a part of the program. You get taught by all of them, not just Howard professors, but A&T's, Hamptons, FAMU. I can't remember the other 6 schools, But Howard started the program, as much as I hate to admit that, but Howard started the program, and then they brought the other HBCUs in. So FAMU has it, it is a part of it too. So of course, I'm like, it will be insane if your child wants to do IT and not send them to HBCU at this point, because they have that partnership. Whereas I know other people, I know a young man that graduates this month from, I'm not going to say the name of the school, but it's a PWI right here in Maryland, and he's looking for a job in IT. But everybody who I know in IT that's graduating from HBCU this month, they had their job a year ago. I know somebody from A&T, he had his job going to work for Amazon as a software engineer, and he had that job in August. And he graduates this month. He already had his job, and a lot of these young people. Anyway, that's the point. I think it's a good point of actually focusing in on the academic programs. Florida A&M has a law school, and it's not talked about.
Wow.
It's not talked about, and we need to be grooming people to go in there. And, not to get into it, but there have been a couple of graduating class where less than half were African American, because we're not applying to the school. And we need to deal with that. We definitely need to pump up the schools that have these different programs. My wife went to 2 HBCUs. She went to Florida A&M and she went to Meharry. So a lot of people don't know. There are only 2 black dental schools left, as far as I know, is Meharry and Howard. 3 medical schools: Meharry, Howard, and Morehouse. So we need to focus on that. A lot of people forget that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Does Shaw have a law school? I mean, a medical school? I'm not sure. I could be wrong.
Again, if they do, I don't.
Not sure. I think some people include Drew out on the West Coast. They may be familiar with it. Charles Drew as an HBCU, as far as a medical school that African Americans can attend.
Right. Yeah, it's a lot of people that go to that school. So majority of people there is Black, but it's not really a HBCU. It's just known for producing Black doctors.
Right.
That is true. Like for example, at Xavier, they got the PsyD program. So that's the only place you can go now in the South to get that. And it's in partnership with University of Chicago, because University of Chicago seen how the psychology majors was coming up there and kicking butt. So they came to Xavier, like, can we partner to build a PsyD program out of Xavier? And really, like, the marketing and branding, telling the story of the university. One of my young mentees that just graduated from Xavier, he first went up to Oregon. He's Black and white. He went to private school all his life, and his mom was scared for him to go to New Orleans, and he really wanted to go to Xavier. And he got to Oregon State, and he did horrible his first year in school. So he came home and he was like, I got to talk to you. I got to be real. And he started telling me about his grades and stuff. And he was like, can you still make some calls to get me connected to Xavier? I was like, yeah, I got you. Got on the phone, set him up with a call. He ended up putting together a PowerPoint presentation to pitch his mom to school. I have to also get with faculty to connect with them, to bring them down there so that they can actually see the campus and she can understand that her son was going to be in safe hands. He ended up graduating cum laude.
Yeah.
So he was like, and he straight up told me, he's like, Dwayne, I've been going to private schools with white kids all my life. I need to be around some Black people. He was like, he went to Oregon, the white frat, and he was like, I need to be around some Black people. Please help me tell my mom that Xavier is the school for me. And so you definitely got to let your kids, I feel like, working in education, you got to let them pick the school. But I think if you're going to HBCUs, definitely you can't force your kid to go to yours, but take them to several of the HBCUs and let them really pick. So once they get there, they can stay. So it's not transferring, hopping around, wasting money, because it really should be an investment when you get to that 4 year. Fortunate enough, here in the Bay Area, we have our junior colleges to where I'm encouraging several of our young African-American students in general to go to one of the JCs first, so that they can really get some of those skills that I feel is just not being taught in our public schools before they get to the university, and they get there and they overwhelmed, they drop out, and feel like they can't do it. Go and get those skills. Decide exactly what you want to do. You might be an awesome teacher. You might be an awesome doctor. And I always tell the kids about that ask me about marine biology. I always tell them about San Diego State because that's the only one that I knew. So that's great advice now too. Like, hey, we got an HBCU that got marine biology.
Right.
So definitely,
Right.
I'm definitely.
And you know, the perfect time to take a Black male to visit any campus is homecoming, right?
Yes.
You bring a student, you bring a young Black boy, 17, 18, on campus at homecoming. He's looking, he's seeing all of these Black folks walking around. You know, I'm a Q. He's seeing all the Greeks and they're stepping, and you know, sororities are strolling, and then you know the obvious. He sees all of these Black women on campus, and he's like, "Wow, you know, perfect time to take any Black male to visit a campus, especially with campuses more than likely opening up this fall." So you know everybody's going to homecoming, right?
Yes.
Perfect time to just now pull out a calendar.
Yeah.
Choose about 2 or 3 homecomings that are within driving distance and say, hey, we're just going to do a tour unofficially so that you can feel this atmosphere. And that really, I think, will leave a impressionable mark on a Black male who's visiting a campus.
Yeah, you can't beat homecoming. I'm taking all my nephews. If Xavier having live homecoming, I'm like, we going to homecoming because it's going to be fun. And y'all old enough to stay by yourself in the house.
Right.
Yeah, we definitely doing homecoming.
Definitely.
One of the things that I wanted to bring up that I thought about when I was thinking about the show was, how do HBCUs and high school counselors, how do they need to evolve in order to appeal to our college-bound Black males, those that are interested in actually going to college versus focusing in on a skill?
Right. Because I work in higher ed now, a lot of times high school counselors are the gatekeepers. So they determine, you know, what colleges our students go on, you know, our Black males go to visit. They may say, oh, well, no, that's too, you know, you have aspirations to attend a 4-year, but you may need to start at community college. No, we have to displace that dispel that myth. I think what admissions needs to do at HBCUs is to start reaching out to these high schools and being proactive to come on these campuses, to talk to the counselors, to talk about what their specific HBCUs offer, so that they can get past the gatekeepers, because the counselors are the gatekeepers, so that they can then reach out to these Black males who can be great academically, or they can be marginal, because that's the mission of our HBCUs, right? We take what we have at where they are, and we look to build them up so that they can graduate. And so I think it's important that HBCUs, or at the admissions departments at HBCUs, do more outreach to reach Black males in high school.
Yeah, I think that I agree totally, with that. I think that we need to very aggressively target Black males. There are a lot of programs, even when I was in high school, there were a lot of programs to increase African-American women in STEM. And it appears, for all intents and purposes, those programs worked. Our sisters are the highest educated in the country right now. But if you guys remember, you tell me if you had the same experience, because I've heard this many, many times. We thought it was real funny when we got Florida A&M and we were outnumbered 4-1. We thought it was real funny at that time. We didn't really, everybody, we thought it was a funny, oh man, we hit the jackpot. But we didn't think about the implication on the Black family and the Black community, the fact that there was such a huge difference in the number of brothers that were on the campus. We didn't look at, and now look what's happened. All these sisters have gotten these degrees with, and I'm not saying a brother has to have a degree to get, but still, you see what's going on. I don't, it's not just, so we need to really look at this. We need to really take a look at, we need to aggressively go after the brothers, to increase the brothers that are doing, and it doesn't just have to be college per se, certifications and trades and everything, but that has been going on. And I was shocked when I talked to my father at one point, and for him to tell me, and I almost fell out my chair when he said it was the same way when he went to school. I found that hard to believe. This has been going on a long time, that more sisters are on the campus than brothers, and it's creating a serious problem as far as the Black family and the Black community in general. That's my opinion about that. I think we need to be very aggressive about that and create feeder programs to expose them to the different disciplines and the different programs that exist, to see what they're interested in. We need to do everything we can to expose them. Now, concerning the junior college, some people, depending on what school they went to, they're not college ready yet. And they may need to go, to get I'm not going to say I was exactly college ready when I first hit the campus, as far as knowing how to study and my time management. I could have gotten more support on that, before I went. Not that I needed to go to a junior college, but some people, depending on where they are, they may need to go to junior college first with a plan to go to the HBCU.
Yeah, what I'm saying is a lot of times you have gatekeepers who are mostly white, who tend to push our students that way, because they don't have that cultural competence to understand, or they don't understand what the mission of HBCUs are. So yeah, if a junior college or a community college is the way to go, great. But sometimes our Black males are not even exposed to be able to know that an HBCU is an option, because they've been told by this counselor, oh, your grades are this, so you really need to start off here. And then that student gets stuck in the community college cycle, and it's 6 years later, and that student is still in the community college cycle.
Right.
I wanted to jump in there really quick. So those of us that work in, I guess, early education, like myself, one thing that I've always challenged myself to do whenever I'm showing up to these school sites, sometimes I have on a Xavier shirt, sometimes I have on the Alpha shirt, just to expose them to what that is, to get them asking questions. And I'm actually assigned to one of the continuation high schools here, and the principal is awesome. And I pitched her, I was like, look, when we get back, we need to do some cultural stuff. We can have fraternity sorority day on the yard, to where I'm getting folks to actually come there that look like the kids and hanging out and just doing stuff like that, just small pieces of exposure to the fabric. Because I remember when at first I was gonna go to San Jose State or Northridge, because all my friends was going there. And I was like, and when I first said I'm thinking about going to HBCU, people was like, don't go to a HBCU. Everybody leave and come right back. Everybody leave, come right back. And I got that in my head around 11th grade. And then 12th grade, I went on a Black college tour, and Jackie Russian, she was like, you're not going to San Jose State. You're a Xavier man. I was like, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to San Jose State. The school just said I need to come on this tour. I'm just free field trip. But that bus rolled up to Xavier, and I said, this is my school. It just felt right. That school and Lamont and Owens, those two sites felt really good. And I was like, I called home. My grandmother was like, you got a letter from Xavier in the mail. I said, what did it say? It said, send $150 in for your seat. And I said, please send me a check. Yeah. And so it's definitely, those of us in, I know for a fact that OUSD, the Oakland Unified School District, budgets have been cut. So you have maybe each kid used to have a guidance counselor, that career has been shifted. So you got that guidance counselor working probably at 4 different high schools or something like that. So those of us that know things, when we show up to these schools and we have access to them, we really need to promote and engage the school and let them know that, hey, we want to set up a table to promote this program and really get involved and to support our folks in higher ed to get these kids, especially, I call them the diamonds in the rough.
I think that gentlemen all make great points, but I think there's one piece that we definitely have to address. I think we touched on it too, and it's the financial piece.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when we talk about aggressively going after these young men that go to these colleges, just go to college, period, not let alone HBCU. If you're a young guy and you're in an environment where you've been the man of the house since you've been 8 years old, man, it's kind of hard to tell your mom she got it from here for you to see your dream. I think that's what some of our young men, not saying all, but some young men who don't have that strong family structure. Where I think sometimes with young ladies, like there are programs geared to young ladies get to the next level and teaching them and showing them. At early, we don't always have those things for our young brothers. I think we just got to start the process earlier with mentorship and giving back. Because I think that once they start seeing us coming in, they start seeing what education is, and it's cool to have degrees, and it's cool to have houses, and it's cool to be family men, and it's more than just what they see on internet and TV. That these things are cool. That we're having fun and we're having healthy relationships just with each other, with Black men and Black women. We have these healthy relationships. I think that makes those young men want to reach for those types of heights.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have a question from one of our listeners. So many of our Black male students are involved with the criminal justice system, and they feel like they can't go to college. Can any of you address if HBCUs are willing to work with students with these types of issues?
They are. So students can still attend HBCUs. It really depends on what happened, to be honest with you. And a lot of times, all it takes is, because HBCUs are so family oriented, is sitting down and talking with the director of admissions or the vice president of student enrollment, or writing a letter explaining what has happened. So yeah, there's a possibility they can still attend an HBCU, even if they've been involved with the criminal justice system, as long as things aren't, they don't have a pending where they're getting ready to go into the system. But yeah, they can still attend HBCU.
And shouldn't part of that be about the rehabilitation process anyway? So we should be creating some legislation. You just made me think about it, that where when we do have our young men going to YA or something like that, when they graduate from that program, instead of going back into the community, you need to be going to a HBCU to continue on. We're moving you out of your community, and we got a partnership with one of the HBCUs, with all of them, and you can choose which one you're going to go and study at.
Right, and Morehouse has just recently started a program. I was reading a couple of months ago. I'm not sure where they are in its, if it's still in its infancy, where incarcerated males can attain a degree from Morehouse.
Yes, online. Is that correct?
Online. And so because they started that model, I think you will start to see more HBCUs adopt that model, especially in the COVID era where we've had to switch to online learning. And so now that's another avenue for a Black male to not necessarily be on campus, but can still attend an HBCU and receive a degree from an HBCU.
Absolutely. Yeah. Shout out to Morehouse on that. Okay. So how do we respond to kids who are online and follow Brent Cardone and Michael Vick that say college is a waste of time?
I say we got to teach our young people to think past 150 characters and understand that everybody's not going to break out, be a superstar. Everybody's not going to be an Instagram model. Everybody's not going to be a YouTuber. Like, I do public speaking all the time. My YouTube channel, if I was banking on that to get me to pay my rent, it's not going to work. Right. So I think that you just got to be, everybody's not going to be that 1%. Just like they tell us when we're graduating from historical Black college. Everybody's not going to get out there and just be making six figures. You're going to have to work towards it. You're going to have to get out there. Some people, based on those internships that they take advantage of and the research opportunities that they take advantage of, they do graduate and they get that six figure because they took advantage of everything early on. So if you're not out there networking, building up yourself and creating, right now they got access to everybody. Like if they go on LinkedIn, they can get in contact with all of us. Like, and all of us do something really unique. That's something that none of us had when we were coming up. So we had to really hustle and do it a whole different way. But I feel like our youngsters, they want to live instantly and they want everything to happen like bam, like don't do no work for it. No, it don't work like that. You gotta do some work. You gotta get out there and you gotta grind. Bless Michael Vick Hart. That's probably why he get in so much trouble.
And we have to be targeted and specific in what Black males major in. I majored in sociology undergrad. Like what? I wasn't getting a job coming out of Savannah State, making any type of money with a sociology degree. We have to be targeted. We have to say, look, major in something STEM related, IT related. That's where you're going to see a return on your investment a whole lot quicker than if you major in a liberal arts major. You know, no offense, I'm a liberal arts major myself, but we have to be targeted in that way so that they can see that return on investment.
I like that you said that, but I would also add that we should also be teaching them, like, how do you turn your social science major into an entrepreneurial career pathway for you? And so we had this professor, Dr. Brookover at Xavier, and she used to tell us, a white woman, she would tell us, like, you all are going to be the first, and many of y'all are going to be the first in your family to do this. So what you need to start doing is thinking about how does that degree work for you and you don't work for it. So I was a psychology major and minor in special ed. Then I went and got an MBA, and I went to get the MBA because I knew I didn't want to be a teacher or a therapist. And I was like, you can go anywhere with an MBA, and I want to be my own boss. And then while doing that, I started researching education and business infrastructure. And that led me to be like, hey, wait, EDD, you love to write and you love to produce curriculum. You end up getting this degree, build your own curriculum, your guides, and people gonna start paying you for your book. So I think we also need to teach entrepreneurialism. And then we also need to teach maybe STEM. Maybe we don't need to get them to go into STEM because they might not be passionate about science, technology, engineering, math. But how about we get them to go into human resources that work with STEM or to run the back office, because you can go into science, technology, engineering, math and not be a science major. So we got to teach them about how this whole new thing works and where social science can fit in with that.
Yeah, one thing, I definitely think that we need to do a better job of exposing, just like we said before, to a lot of the different programs and different opportunities that exist. Because I started off teaching, just for example, I started off teaching. I'm what they call an instructional designer now. And we have a lot of people, just like you guys said, that are doing, social sciences, liberal arts, the School of Liberal Arts. A lot of us came out of liberal arts and whatnot. And to be honest, at the time when I was in school, I didn't even think about how much money I was going to actually make. Everybody was in college. We figured we didn't even equate that. What he's majoring in, he's going to make 3 times what I'm going to make and all of those things. So but I think that conversation needs to be had a lot more. But back to what I was saying, I'm an instructional designer. And basically I started off, I'm an educator. I'm basically a trainer and an e-learning specialist. E-learning has gone through the roof now. And there are a lot of teachers, a lot of people who are going to graduate this month that are teachers who are unaware that they can make 6 figures as an e-learning specialist, as an instructional designer. And yeah, a lot of teachers have even heard of it. And these things, the HBCUs need to have that program and add that in. They need to expose it. So that's one of the things that I'm trying to have them add these other classes on top of the degree they're already getting. So here they're coming out of liberal arts as a teacher, and they can walk out and make six figures doing that. And I guarantee you, most teachers, whether they're new teachers or old teachers, veteran, many of them don't even know about it. They don't even know. Many of them hadn't even heard of that field or that particular title. You know, but still, we didn't know the difference between. You know, I think we knew engineers we expected them to make more money, and someone who went on to be a doctor, but just straight IT, it didn't even compute to us at the time. You know, the difference in the lifestyle that would exist. You know, if you get exposed that way. Yeah.
I think that one thing I think we all touched on. I think y'all made good points, but I think being in a college setting, one thing we learn is the hardest part about starting a business is the infrastructure. And when you're an extreme young person, you have no infrastructure. If you're a cook, you have no kitchen. You know, if you are a computer scientist, you may not have a computer, but as long as you're at the university, you have access to those resources. And so I think that's where the value comes in with the college, as opposed to, let's say, Brett Cardone or those things. When they talk about partnership, these individuals' parents may have had businesses and resources, where you're an individual come from humble beginnings, as most of us may have been. You know, I didn't have a computer till I got to college. You know, and some of these kids may not have access to a fab lab where they can make stickers or print screen T-shirts until they get to college. Mm-hmm. So I think, once again, these are things I think these are the avenues. Like I say, when I say we use car pitch, we have to sell those things, because I think the internet always shows you the finish line. It doesn't show you the process. Exactly. And I think you gentlemen touched on that very well. But I think that's the thing we've got to push. Like, the internet is showing you the end result. Like, we're showing you Brett Cardone on the jet. It didn't show him when he was struggling, you know, and he had to ask somebody for money, or he didn't know how to fix the light bulb or the wash and dryer, and he had to go find a mentor, you know, which you'll get at the HBCU, because your professors, you don't know what their careers were prior to. And I think we've all had this experience. We didn't know what our teachers did. I mean, me personally, like, I'm on my third career. I started out as an intern for Walmart. I managed in retail for 10 years and got burned out before I went to law enforcement. And now I'm on the law enforcement side, and I'm more so getting on the training and teaching side. That's the side I tend to go to, put some entrepreneurial ventures. And I think those are the things I think we definitely should be pushing with our kids. But you gentlemen all make great points.
Well, gentlemen.
Somebody just made a point about trying to help young people find their passion, and I totally agree. Jennifer Curry just made that point, and I left that part out because even when I was a teacher, a classroom teacher, I felt like, everybody's born with a particular talent. Half the battle is figuring out what that talent is. And if you do, we had someone, I had a childhood friend that liked butterflies. We thought he was the craziest person in the world, like butterflies, used to breed them and everything. But now his butterflies are in movies, and people buy them for weddings and all these different things. And I used to tell that story, like, look, if you like it, there's a way to make money doing it. This dude used to breed butterflies, and now he's, he has a huge business. He employs people.
Yeah, I think that's really dope. I tell people all the time, like, personally, I know I'm supposed to do this work. It's critical. 5th grade, getting in trouble. Mr. Taylor said, I want you to write. So I started writing. He said, what you want to do? I said, I think I want to come back and work for Oakland. And now I came back. I'm working for the city, basically doing my own nonprofit work. And when I look at the sky, I'm happy when I get out the bed. And so if you're working someplace and you're not happy and you're not excited, then you're not going to love what you do. And like 11 years ago, I started WeLo with a $500 donation from a kindergarten teacher that said, if you put this kid in your summer program, and I have not been federally funded. And so, but I'm happy and I'm okay. And so if you're passionate, I totally believe the money and all the accolades, it's going to come because you're doing the work from your heart, and you really want to do it. So it's important to trust yourself and be willing to dare to be different. Like, just because science is the hot thing right now, that don't mean everybody should be a scientist. So
speaking of daring to be different, do you all think that our Black male athletes in high school, do you think they have a responsibility to attending an HBCU? I have Willis Dell also asked the same question. Do you feel athletes is an effective way to increase HBCU awareness? This is a big topic right now because of the climate, the current climate of Black males. So what say you?
Yeah,
I would say yes.
I think it has helped with, Deion Sanders being hired as the head coach at Jackson State, Eddie George, Tennessee State. And I know they were talking, Marshall Faulk was looking at a head coaching role at an HBCU as well. Would I say they haven't? And I think it will help with recruitment, but there's so many other
dynamics
forces to it. Like, okay, you take a 5-star athlete on the campus of, let's say, Howard or Hampton or FAMU, and then you take that same 5-star athlete and you take him to Georgia or Alabama or Oregon. It's hard to compete. It's hard to compete with that because we don't have the resources. I think it ultimately boils down to really personal fit. I am glad to see a lot of our athletes now choosing to go to HBCUs. For instance, a couple of years ago, there's a guy who went to North Carolina A&T who was being for track, and he was being recruited by Ohio State and all these other Power 5 conferences, but he decided to go to A&T. And guess what? A&T has one of the best track programs in the country now. It can compete against these Power 5s.
Right.
It really depends. It's very nuanced. I would love to see our athletes return to HBCUs.
Yes.
Would absolutely love it because of all of the other things. Because if you have the talent, the pros are going to find you. I remember Shannon Sharp saying that. If you're talented enough, the pros will find you. And so I really kind of leave it up to, I would love to see them go because of everything other than athletics, but we're competing against, a huge beast when it comes to that.
Well, I think I was an athlete in college for Norfolk State, and I was going to go to Notre Dame, but I was late qualifying to go to Norfolk State, and ended up being a good. I think it's good. I think that right now is different as it would have been 10 or 12 years ago with the internet. So you have opportunity to always market yourself. You can politic yourself now. You don't have to go to Alabama, Ohio State to get TV time. Like, you can market your own tape. You can, with the internet, it puts us right there. ESPN is actively now seeking out good film and stats and creating a conversation that we couldn't have created for ourselves, 10, 20 years ago. I think from the HBCU standpoints, and this is rightfully so, they may have to embrace the sports culture a little bit more than they did in the past. I know, like, we go to certain colleges, like, I get it, Morehouse, Tuskegee, things that nature, I think they have like a minimum of 3.2 before you can play a sport. And I get it. I understand why education is definitely very important, But I mean, if this kid has been 5-star his whole life, this may be a deterrent. If he's never seen 3.0, unless you're gonna give him that individual learning plan, you may lose out on that opportunity. But I think money wise is good for the colleges. It's good. It's bringing the buzzes around back again. And I think that's important for colleges, for HBCUs, definitely. And I think also we're seeing more HBCUs play these Division I schools. I know Norfolk State has Wake Forest on the schedule this year. I think Savannah State played 3 Division I schools in the last few years. Yeah,
we did, and that kind of turned out bad. In sports, in football, we played Oklahoma State, Florida State, and I think one other school. And it was really for the money, and I get it.
Definitely for the money. It was definitely for the money. From a competitive
standpoint, I mean, you can get people seriously injured playing against that type of elite athlete, which was happening a couple of years ago. And we have since we've gotten rid of those money games, so to speak, because the competition for us just wasn't there. Not that we didn't have athletes, but the competitive factor just was not there.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I think that a lot of people forget and because, we're playing against these other schools, but those are still our kids over there. Those are, and people forget that there was a time when Florida State and the University of Miami and the University of Florida there was a time when they thought that they would never beat Florida A&M in Morgan State.
Mm-hmm.
People forgot that. So I think that the sacrifice needs to be made, and you're talking in a couple of years, if our kids started coming back to our own schools, those stadiums, all that would be on our campus.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people are making a lot of money off our kids.
Yeah.
That's a fact. And everybody knows that, and everybody celebrated Jackie Robinson going to the major leagues, but we lost 2 national leagues behind that. They closed down. And we looked at that like that was a success, but we gave it away. We have given a lot away.
Yes.
And I think you guys talked about the entrepreneurship.
Right.
The colleges need to drive the behavior that we need to survive at this point. You talk about cooperative economics and the way we spend our money.
Right.
We have a lot of people everybody wants to come to the United States. And when they get here, they open up stores in our communities, and everybody seems to understand that but us. There are a lot of people and I think the HBCUs need to be driving that, the way that we think. We need to think for survival and common sense as far as entrepreneurship is concerned, the way we patronize Black. So if it's not driven there, where is it supposed to happen? We had the School of Business and Industry at Florida A&M, and when you walked in there, they had all these plaques of the Fortune 500 companies. Right. And what are we doing? So we look at the athletes and the business. I think we need to take a different approach. And if it's not coming from the HBCUs, then nothing is going to change. Nothing is going to change.
And then also, everything that these brothers have said is spot on, and we need to start elementary, like on and off the field athletes. So we teaching our young men you can be a great athlete, you can be a great scholar, but you got to do both of them, and you got to be in the classroom, in the community, early age. So that way, when they do have to have that 3.2 to play at Morehouse, they're not scared of it. I think in general, when we tell our young Black athletes in high school, just get a 2.0 so you can play. That is basic, that's subpar, and we have to raise the bar, and we have to set the precedents. Like, no, you don't get praises and claps for being basic. We need you to be great. And not to say that everybody's going to have that ability to get that great GPA, because people have learning disabilities to where it just might not happen. So we should still challenge our young Black men to be great and to know that it's a setback, but you can always move forward. And so that they won't be scared of those challenges, because like when I graduated from Xavier, I had a 2.78, master's 3.75, doctorate, my current GPA is 3.8. And so it was a progress, learning. And so everything that these guys talking about is spot on. Definitely, we need to get our athletes to not be scared of HBCUs, build around the infrastructure so the sports complexes can be appealing so that the athletes can be in a position to beat one of the D1 schools when they get that opportunity. But Xavier just got the baseball program, so and they rank #1 right now. So I'm excited.
So it is college signing day. Super excited for the class of 2025. What's your favorite college memory?
Wow. It's funny you should ask that question. This morning, I was actually online looking at something for Savannah State. I was president of student body my junior year. And so my favorite college memory was leading a protest where we took over the administration building. And we said, we are not leaving out of this building until our demands are met. And we ended up staying in the administration building for 17 days. And all of our demands didn't get met, but we got local and state and national exposure. And it led to a conversation which led to new dorms getting built on campus. I wasn't able to, take advantage of that, but I'm excited anytime that I go back to the campus now and I see the dorms that students have now versus what we had in the late 90s.
Yes.
And it just warms my heart every time that I see that I had a little part in that, along with a lot of my classmates who decided to bomb rush the administration building and demand change.
I think that at every HBCU, we've all had that experience, bum rushing the A building, the admin building. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyone else with their college memories, or your favorite college memory?
Me personally, I think mine was Labor Day Classic, the first one I played in, and Jay-Z was in the crowd.
Oh, wow.
And the stadium was full, and Jay-Z was there, and everybody was hyped, and then the band started playing his song, and it was like electric.
Awesome.
I have so many. I was a party animal in undergrad and the king of house parties. And so the number one memory was we had moved to New Orleans East, and we had a townhouse, and we threw $1 drink all. You can drink. You pay $1 to get in. Drinks just came. And New Orleans police came. My room was on the first floor, so that turned into like its own separate room, and it had a deck out that went on the roof. And so you had college kids on the roof, in my room, up the steps, in the living room, in the kitchen. And let's just say I think 5 of us went to jail and had to go to jail in New Orleans. That was probably we still talk about that. Remember that they called the California Club list. I was California Club president, asking all the members to tip in, to bail us out of jail. It was hilarious, but
awesome.
Epic.
Yeah, I would have to say, I have so many memories from college or whatnot, but I would say probably one of the best memories, I marshaled in the band. So, I was in the 100s. So I would say homecoming, my first homecoming, marching, on that field. And then, my high school coming up, and they saw me out there, parents, everybody. So I would say that was one of my, my favorite memories out of many, many others. But yeah.
That's not a good one. Those are good ones.
That's awesome. Gentlemen, before we leave, the purpose of the show is to do some matchmaking and connecting. I have one listener, her name is Renee Murray. She asks, and just really be honest with this question. Are any of you all available for mentorship of a young man, incoming freshman? Is anybody available? Of course, that just starts with, that conversation, planting the seed.
Of course. That's what I do for my career.
Okay.
I'm not as good as Dwayne is, but I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, definitely. I was a teacher, so many of the young people, I'm still involved with them or whatnot. So
right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I work in higher ed, so I'm around this every day. So yeah, it's great. I knew everybody was going to say yes.
Yes.
Because that's just the HBCU spirit.
Yes.
That's something we do. Whether the student whether that young man is at an HBCU or even at a PWI, we understand the value of mentorship, because maybe we didn't see that or get that necessarily growing up, or have someone who was willing to reach out to us. But yeah, we all are willing to help in any way.
Awesome. So this brings us to my last question, my last question. Please let listeners know how they can get in touch with you. Specifically, one of our listeners, Renee Murray, she is interested in that mentorship with the young man, starting with Baker.
Yeah, well, you see my name up on it. So Gerald Baker, 1990 at gmail.com is my email.
Okay. Corey.
So you can reach me at either Facebook, which is my name right there. You can also reach me at my email, which is crobin696, crobin696 @gmail.com, or you can follow me on Instagram or Twitter at BrainQ, QUE96.
Kyle.
I can be reached at Kyle Lott, as you see right here spelled, 7468 @gmail.com.
And Dwayne.
I can be reached at D and then Akins, JR @gmail.com, or you can just call me 510-409-8275.
Awesome. Thank you all, gentlemen, for allowing me to showcase your stories, your experiences, your expertise, for doing your part in changing the narrative, and lastly, for keeping your commitment by being a part of the show. This means a lot. If you've enjoyed the show, please let us know. We would love to shout you out and post your comments. If you or someone you know is changing the narrative, please contact us at ichangethenarrative@gmail.com. We would love to share your story. Meet us here next Saturday at 1:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And gentlemen, I just thank you again for being a part of the show. Thank you all so much for listening.